You've just tuned in to the nexus of inspiring, encouraging, and uplifting leaders who share their successes and their failures. Insights that will motivate, cultivate, educate, and illuminate your path to a very bright future. Welcome to Shaping the Future podcast. Here's your host, Gregg Kell.
Welcome, Future Shapers, to this episode of Shaping the Future podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Joseph Jones, the Vice President of Bosco Legal Services in Ontario, Riverside, California. Joseph, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
I'm a private investigator. I'm here working with my father and my brother in our company, Bosco Legal Services, and we've got a kind of a really unique expertise in conducting online and social media investigations, which I'm really excited to talk about today.
Excellent. Tell us, the Future Shapers audience, a little bit about your company and the background of the company, please, around Bosco.
Yeah, so my dad started the company out of our kitchen. I was, a couple years old and back in the mid-'80s. At the time, my dad had been working for a magazine company, doing really well, and he was a salesman, and they kept changing his, commission structure, and so he kind of got tired of that and started looking for other opportunities, and he had a friend who was an attorney. So he started doing some work for him in-house, found, hey, this is kind of a fun thing. I'm really enjoying it. And after a couple years of doing that, he decided to start up his own investigations agency. The attorney who was his friend, kind of financially backed him for the first couple of years while he got things started. And then as, my brother and I, grew up and, started stepping into the business world, both of us really kind of decided that, continuing the family business is something that we wanted to do, and it's, kind of all history from there.
Investigation is in your genes.
It is.
Outstanding. It's also good to support a family-owned business, about 50 employees here. That's great. Also has a very unique niche, I think, in the private investigative sphere. We're going to hear a little bit more about that. Joseph, the Future Shapers audience, we are passionate about entrepreneurship and innovation. We believe this contributes to higher productivity, profits, and growth. What are you most passionate about today?
My passions, really start around my family. I've got a wife and 4 little kids at home, and, everything that I do really centers around wanting to, create a better life for them and, give them good opportunities. I'm also, kind of as part of that, I'm very passionate about the families of my employees and the people that work with us. I want to, be able to provide them opportunities for their families to continue to, grow within the company and have opportunities. And as a, kind of right along with all of that, it's really about business growth. I'm certainly an investigator. Investigations I love. I think, there's a lot in my personality that lends itself well to investigations. That's one of the reasons, I've been able to see some success. But really, above all, I'm a business person. I want to see my business grow. I want to see us be able to provide excellent services to our clients that are a major benefit to them, and in turn, everybody wins.
Excellent. A family man committed to business growth so that everyone wins. Outstanding. Joseph, how long have you been with Bosco Legal Services?
Yeah, so it's really been a lifelong thing, right? I'm 12 years old, sweeping parking lots, taking out the trash. I've worked, I worked a few other, jobs when I was a teenager outside of the company, but really my entire adult life, I've worked for the company.
So over those years, you've probably seen it all. You've seen some ups and some downs. You've seen some growth and some maybe even a little bit of contraction. You've seen some opportunities to expand that help to define Bosco Legal Services. And you've also maybe experienced the occasional curveball that gets thrown at us in life. Would you share with the Future Shapers audience today a short story about your worst experience as the Vice President of Bosco Legal Services?
Well, I'll tell you. There's a short one that I'll share. So back in kind of the early 2000s, I think it was probably about 2007, 2008. We lost a major client. It was a major hit to our company. And up through that point, and this is before I had even got heavily involved in Bosco. I was working, going to school, doing my thing. But we lost a major client, no fault of our own. It just kind of happened, and we were really worried. We had to, for the first time ever, we had to do a couple layoffs, and I ended up taking on some extra roles that really kind of were not fun, but you do what you got to do. And through that, we became much more growth minded. Up to that point, I think we had just kind of been coasting. Business was good, and then once that hit, it kind of helped us all realize that hey, things can change. So if we're not growing, we're shrinking, and that's kind of the mindset that we took away from that.
And there you have it, Future Shapers, a value bomb dropped by Joseph Jones today. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. Interesting. All right. Tell me, what lessons did you learn from this adverse event?
Again, like I was saying, you've got to be looking ahead. Not necessarily that we want to be, paranoid all the time, but in the back of my mind always is what's the worst thing that could happen and how am I going to respond to that? How can I get out ahead of the curve, and make sure that, that we're stable and that we're doing well, even if something falls apart.
Sort of plan for the worst and expect the best. I heard that somewhere before. I'm not sure. Excellent. So tell me, are there specific steps that you took at that time, 2007, 2008, and what transpired from that? Steps that you took to convert that moment into the success that you are today?
So there's a couple things, and certainly, and like I said, at that point, I wasn't even heavily involved in the, operations of the business. I was more a worker bee, but so a lot of the credit for how things transpired really goes to my dad and my brother Jeremiah, who were really leading the ship at that point. But I think one of the key takeaways. One of the things that we really started doing at that point, we immediately went out and we bought another company that was doing similar things that we had been doing, and they hadn't been profitable, so we were able to take their client base, turn it profitable, and then use that as a base for, all right, now we have this this new client base who we're only doing a little bit of work for, let's expand to the services that we're doing for those new clients. And really just focusing on what's next. The other piece that it really kind of changed for us and has really pushed us to where we're at today is it put in our mind again, things aren't going to stay the same. You've got to be ahead of the curve, and in our industry, court filings is a portion of our business that has been a huge part of what we've done for a long time, but that's changing, right? Electronic filings are coming through. It's going to we've already seen it some, and over the next 5 years we're going to see it more. It's going to diminish that profit center for us. So the question is, all right, what's next? What are we going to do? That's kind of that mindset is how we kind of stumbled into doing social media investigations.
Social media investigations, an area that Bosco Legal Services has a unique capability, and that is their answer, to a degree, of how can we stay ahead of the curve. Excellent, Joseph. Now, here we are, Future Shapers. This is April 3rd, 2018. We're at the beginning of the second quarter of year 2018. When you look forward into 2018, Joseph, what is your most important goal to achieve?
So I've got kind of two primary goals. One, we have some very specific financial goals that I won't go into too specifically here. But as far as growth is concerned, we saw some very significant growth last year. Over the last 5 years, we've seen some very significant growth. So that's going to continue to be kind of a primary focus of getting the dollar amounts we need to continue, bringing on more capable staff and continue doing what we're doing. The other piece that we're now looking at, regardless of how successful social media investigations have been for us, and I was just looking at the numbers, we just in the first quarter we've already billed out as much as we did in 2009 altogether.
Outstanding.
But even with as successful as that has been, and we still expect there's a lot of room to grow. We've also set our eyes on another another unique service that we're going to start pursuing, that we've started pursuing. We've got our first case coming up here in a month, where we're going to be helping attorneys in trial select the proper jurors using social media. So that's kind of a big goal by the end of 2018. I want to have that service kind of tested out, figured out, get our template going, so we can 2019 we can start pumping those out.
So Bosco Legal Services perceives a new growth area of assisting attorneys real time within trial in the critical jury selection process. That can be a challenge. I can understand how it takes some learning. And you don't want to learn by error.
Right,
You want to get it right the first time, right?
Right. Yep.
Excellent. Well, the best wishes for that. When a business expands to another area, there's always challenges that are inherent in that, achieving the growth goals that you have. What are the biggest challenges overall that you're facing right now at Bosco?
So I think as it pertains to the social media investigations, I think the biggest piece of it, the biggest challenge, is that attorneys in insurance companies don't realize how much they need it. Certainly some do, and those who do, they use us like crazy, and it works really well for everybody. But often, people either think that social media content can't be used in court because there are some very specific challenges to getting the information authenticated and whatnot, or they don't realize the prevalence. They think of when they think of social media, they think, oh, Facebook, that's something other people do. They have privacy settings. You can't view any of it, which is absolutely not the case. So I think that the biggest challenge is just helping people see this is something that you guys need. And usually what happens is once we show them on, one case, hey, here's what can be done, then the floodgates open and we're busy as heck.
And what is your specific strategy, if you can share, to overcome that challenge, which really is an experiential marketing type of challenge?
Yeah, the biggest part of it is just education. So I'm an MCLE provider in California and most states. In order for attorneys to have their licenses stay active, they have to get so many hours per year of continuing education. So I offer classes, and I'll go and I'll speak to groups of attorneys and fill them in. Hey, here's what you need to know. So it's not even a sales pitch. I'm not saying, hey, you need to come use us. I'm not wasting your time trying to convince you to use my service. I'm giving you valuable information that you didn't have so you can stay ahead of the curve. And then as a side piece of that, then they understand its importance. And so whenever it comes up and they start looking, they're going to turn to the experts, who is us.
Excellent. So there we have it. Another value bomb dropped by Joseph Jones. The importance of providing an educational outcome than a non-sales or marketing approach to prospective legal and insurance customers, so that they begin to understand that there's a piece missing, a piece that Bosco can help to serve. Education, that's the key. Outstanding. Tell us about your ideal client, Joseph. What is their profile?
So our primary client base is going to be attorneys who are involved in litigation, or insurance professionals who are looking for information about, people that have made claims that they're trying to figure out, all right, are these claims legitimate or are they not legitimate? And generally just people who need information, right? As private investigator, my job above all is to provide them information so they can make some, knowledgeable assessments about their case.
Excellent. Changing the subject just a little bit, we at the Future Shapers understand that simple actions and habits over time, applied with diligence, work together to yield an excellent future. Tell us, Joseph, what are you doing right now to shape your professional future?
There's a couple of things. I mean, thankfully, I'm at the point now where I'm able to bring on some very skilled, very knowledgeable employees, right? People who are committed, who they know how to think for themselves, and they're really helping, shaping what we're doing right now. At the outset, when we started thinking, all right, investigation, social media, whatever we're going to do, it really boiled down to, a lot of grueling hours, a lot of self-taught, kind of stuff, spending the time to go out and figure out what needed to be known so I could create a platform to build off of. When I think about, entrepreneurs and people, starting businesses, I think about, the many people I've known over the years who really want to be a business owner. They really want to do well, but they want it quick, right? Everybody wants a quick buck. Hey, I'd love a quick buck, but in reality, in my world, that's not how it works. It took, a lot of years, a lot of hours, a lot of grueling effort, a lot of sticking with it, trying things that didn't work to get to the point, that we're at now.
And there you have it. Future Shapers, another value bomb dropped by Joseph Jones. There is no quick and easy answer, no quick and easy path to be on the right path that leads to long-term entrepreneurial value creation and ultimately success. Success that is enjoyed by the customers, by the employees, and by the families. Outstanding. Tell me, Joseph, what big advice can you share with the Future Shapers audience that is listening today?
I don't know if I've got any, kind of one big piece of advice, but it's really, I guess if I could say, one thing that's been, really valuable to me is, definitely put in the hard work, put in the money that's needed to be successful, but don't be afraid to cut your losses. To get, like I said, we saw the court filing thing coming down the pipe for a lot of years, and we thought, all right, we've got to figure out something to, replace this income stream and something to help, keep us relevant. And we tried a lot of different stuff. And usually what we do, we'd bang it out, we'd work it out, we'd figure out the process, and we get to the break-even point where we're finally starting to make money, and then we realize, this isn't it. It's just it doesn't make sense to continue with, and so even though we had put so much time and effort and everything else into it, we just kind of cut our losses and said, all right, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to keep looking for something else. Whereas if we had kept that other stuff on, it would have sucked up our resources, so we couldn't keep looking for that thing that was going to be successful.
Future Shapers, Joseph just expressed the value of creating a vision, creating a sense of how you can serve and help build others. Try different ways to fulfill that vision. Work hard to realize it, but don't think that this is the best thing since sliced bread. Be willing to be hard-nosed, look at the financial consequences, look at the time investment, and be willing to step back and say, nope, this is not the direction we're going in. I elaborated a little bit, but I'm hoping that was a fair explanation. Well, very good. Joseph, tell the listeners, if you would, about how they could contact you at Bosco Legal Services today.
So our website is boscolegal.org. My email is joe@boscolegal.org. Probably the best way to contact us is either through the website or through my email. Our number is also 877-353-8281.
Thank you for sharing with us today. And thank you for Future Shapers audience for listening to this episode of Shaping the Future podcast. And get ready, because the next one is going in the can soon. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for joining this episode of Shaping the Future podcast. We leave you, Future Shapers, with this challenge. Act boldly today to shape your future, because if you don't, it will absolutely be shaped for you.